we found out you could see us, but we heard you couldn't hear us. And so we said, you know what, the time hasn't started yet, but we might as well go ahead and just open the door and let people in. So, if people are piling in now, a few hundred people registered, but what tends to happen on the webinar is that, some of the people that are supposed to show up are there, or who said they're going to be there, they come in, and then some people find other stuff to do or whatever, and some people trickle in late. So if people trickle in late, then they might actually miss some stuff. But you know what? I'm going to let you guys if you have some questions you want to go ahead and pile in there. If you remember, with questions, the sooner you ask the questions, the sooner it's likely to get answered. So go ahead and drop in your questions if you want to. And we're not going to answer questions right away. We'll answer them, later on in the conversation. But you're welcome to ask any questions that you want. And also, now first and foremost, I guess I should do an audio video check. Can anybody see us and hear us? That's a good question, because I actually normally don't start webinars early. Okay. Here we go. Okay, I see Deborah's already asking questions. Good. Ava says, yep. And Ava, actually I know Ava. Ava lives in China. Did you know that, Tyra?
Okay.
Dr. Seldin?
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah. Ava is she writes by the name of the Global Black Woman, and she writes about all the opportunities for Black people in different parts of the world. But she's been teaching in China for years. And so, we had talked once, and I told her, I said, this is amazing. I mean, this is what Black people in America would value, and this is what they need. And so, you should definitely drill into this. I mean, make this your thing, and because this is what you love already, and it's monetizable. It's in demand, and people are going to like it. So she's been writing under the name The Global Black Woman for a while. She actually has a Facebook page called The Global Black Woman, and in fact, I'm going to see if I can find her Facebook page real quick. Just in case you guys want to know, I run webinars pretty, relaxed and impromptu. The goal is to give you as much information as we possibly can. It's not to be all stodgy and stuff. That's not, you have to do that. But let me see here. I'm going to grab Ava's Global Black Woman page, because I want people to see it, because I want you to, if you see it, I want you to, maybe hit the like button and read some of the stuff she writes. It is absolutely fascinating. There is the link. Now, I want you guys to get used to the interface. Look down in the interface. There's a section for questions. There's a section for chat. And in the chat section, that's where I'll share information with you as we go along. Anything that I see that I think that you may be interested in, anything that I can help you with. And just to show you, just in terms of what I did with Ava, I think it's a good example, a good prototype. Dr. Seldin, just so you know, Dr. Seldin has been my friend for a very long time, but this is her chance to just realize how crazy I can be in a classroom type setting, So, I think that what we did with Ava in terms of me sharing the link, I think that gives you an idea of kind of what Dr. Seldon and I actually do in our class. We actually teach a class in the Black Business School called How to Make a Living as a Writer. And one of the main things that I try to do is I try to do everything in my power to support, to help you succeed in terms of what you're seeking to do. Not just, because it's one thing to teach and give information. It's another thing to mentor. That's another level. Mentorship means that as you're going through the process and as you're learning, as you're figuring out new things, you can ask these little questions, because the devil's always in the details, right? I mean, you think about, for example, having a baby. Anybody can decide to have a baby. Anybody can make a baby. But when you're raising that baby from 0 to 18, so many unknown factors come into play, so many questions you forgot to ask. So it would be kind of strange if someone just gave you one class on how to raise a baby and you had to use that for the next 18 years. It's better to kind of have that guidance and mentorship. But we go even further than guidance and mentorship and teaching. We actually take an active hands-on approach. I mean, if I can help support you, then I'll do that. I have a pretty big platform. We have well over 1 million Facebook fans on our different pages. We're probably up to about 1.3 million, something like that. Mostly African American. We're pretty Black here, and I like being a Black person. I've been a Black man most of my life, and I enjoy it. And so we don't just, to use the baby analogy, we don't just sort of help you figure out how to have a baby, or teach you how to raise a baby, or guide you and mentor you as you're raising the child. We also will babysit for you sometimes. And I think, in terms of that writing career thing, it does help to have that boost. One of the things that benefited me the most, or when I look back, one of the things I found that provided the most benefit in my own writing career was, when I did have someone that was more hands-on with me. But the problem was that back when I started doing this stuff, maybe '04, when I decided to write my first book, there wasn't anybody to help. I couldn't get anybody to read my stuff. I didn't know where to send it. I couldn't get, anybody to pay me to write. I couldn't get my book published. And I spent a lot of money, probably well over $100,000 easily, trying to build my career and trying to get things going. So that was, believe it or not, that part of the conversation was not even planned. And I hope I didn't freak out Dr. Seldin here by talking about this. I was literally talking about sort of the warm up stuff as we dig into the discussion. So let's go ahead and start. I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins. I run a couple platforms. One, Your Black World. I'm part of the blackbusinessschool.com. I also run the Black Wealth Bootcamp. My PhD is in finance. I've also made a living as a writer. I've been writing for a lot of years. I'm qualified to talk to you about what it takes to make a living as a writer, not just in the traditional way, but also in the independent way. I wasn't paid with corporate money and stuff like that, but I can say I've made about $2 million as a writer and a speaker over the last several years. My articles on different blogs have been read over 100 million times, and I'm not making that up. I'm not exaggerating. That's the truth. I can show you numbers that verify this. And so that's my thing. That's what I do. That's what I love. That's my passion. Now, Dr. Tyra Seldin, I'm going to let her tell you more about her as well, but I'll start off by kind of saying that Dr. Seldin and I, we've been friends since, how old were we when I met you? Oh my God. In our 20s, yes. Yes, at the University of Rochester. And Dr. Seldin is extraordinary when it comes to the English language, literature, all that stuff. She's been teaching for a number of years. She's made a living in this area, and she's really good. She actually taught in the University of Rochester Business School. And what made this appealing is I did pitch this idea for this class to you, but you were receptive. And what led me to make the pitch, and I want you to chime in on this, was the fact that not only do you know how to write, like you know the grammar, you know how to make the words spin, make them come to life, but you've also taught in a business school. Which says to me that you understand the more practical aspect of making a living. Because a lot of people have talent and creative ability, but not everybody knows how to monetize, right? So what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's critical that when you have a gift or you have something that you're passionate about and you want to share with the world, that you position yourself to do that. And teaching at the Simon School of Business, also teaching at various universities and colleges, teaching everything from creative writing to business writing, to writing analytically, the one key component of that, finding your voice and articulating your voice in a way that's going to be receptive to your audience. And that is what leads to phenomenal success, regardless of the audience that you're writing for.
Interesting. Well, I will say that, what I found, it's really funny. Here's the other funny thing that makes us, I think, a productive odd couple in terms of talking about this topic. Dr. Seldin, she knows the grammar. She knows how to structure anything that you're writing, and she can teach that. She's taught it many, many years. And I was the kid who failed English class over and over and over again. And here's the funny thing. The way I became a better writer actually was when I was younger, and I was kind of dealing with the ups and downs of kind of being a black man in America. And I had this theater teacher when I was a freshman. And my freshman year of college, that was the first time I actually decided that I was going to actually try to make good grades. And it worked. I did pretty well in college. And my theater teacher had us write these essays. She'd have us go see a play and write really detailed essays about what we saw. And she would say, describe everything, describe the colors and the atmosphere. And so I started doing that. And I got in the habit of doing that. So then I started keeping a journal. And in the journal, I did the same thing, except I did that not with a play, but I did that with my life. And it was so profound because I started learning so many things about life at an early age that I wouldn't have observed if I wasn't writing them down. I was processing feelings in a way that I wouldn't have processed otherwise. I was able to remember things because I had them in writing, and I didn't. And it was through that process I learned how much we forget in a short period of time. People always look back and they say, where'd the time go? I mean, it seems like just yesterday it was 2004. Well, a lot of times that's because our brains really have short memories. We don't remember the details. So you go back and you can read exactly what you were doing 5-10 years ago. You see how much your life has changed and how much you've gone through. But here's the thing that benefited me professionally. I was gaining, because I was writing literally 1,000 pages a year in this journal. I was gaining the ability to carefully describe my life and to express what I was thinking. It became very fluid. It was like breathing. It was like, oh, I can sit down and so when I eventually became a public writer, I started writing in my campus paper at the University of Kentucky about 19 blah 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 years ago. I don't know how many years ago, but it was a while back. And I was writing all this radical black man stuff because I was a mad black dude, and I still am actually. And I was, and what happened was it shocked the heck out of me. But I wrote these articles, and everybody loved them. Like everyone ate them up. And I didn't understand. I was like, why do people like my writing so much? And because I'm not a good writer. I didn't define myself that way, but it was because I just learned how to express myself. In a way, it's like a rapper who never took a music class, but he knows what a good beat sounds like because he's heard so much music and he just flows with it. So for me, writing is like more of a flow process. But I admire your background because you know that structure. Now tell me a little bit about that, your development as a writer, and how you kind of became what you are today.
It's interesting because our stories in some ways are very similar. When I was younger, I loved to write. I had a teacher who discouraged me, who really was focused a lot on grammar. My content was great, but she was a grammar queen. So I would get papers back and there would be red ink everywhere. And then I realized over time that should not stop me, and it was not going to stop me. And so eventually I ended up majoring in English as an undergrad. I worked in a writing lab. So I was working with students, and I found that the more that I gained confidence in my own voice, it was easier for me to help other people. So eventually I went through, got my master's in English, my PhD in English, as I mentioned earlier, taught at the university level. But I also found that it was very important for me to tap into who I was as a writer. And I wasn't necessarily just doing academic writing. I found myself wanting to do more creative writing. I eventually started doing some blogging. I've done writing for Fortune 500 companies. I've done curriculum writing. And going back to the point that you said, it's time on task. It's like any skill, any craft, any gift. You have to spend time on your craft, mastering it, fine-tuning it, and finding your voice. And once you find your voice, it's yours, and no one can ever take that from you. And then writing becomes your platform to become empowered. And in many ways, you can use writing to empower other people. So my story, again, initially, I didn't know I had a gift. As my gift became more pronounced, I realized that, not only can I share this with people, but there's a way for this to be financially advantageous for me as well.
Well, I love it. I love it. And so, given that we're here to kind of talk about that, just how to kind of do this sort of thing, how to write for a living. I mean, there are people here with different experience levels, different skill levels. And so one thing I want to find out is I want to launch a quick poll for you guys, and like I said, the people who get here late, they're going to kind of miss this question, but it's okay. We've got enough. So I want to ask you, in terms of how well you've done so far in achieving your goal of becoming a professional writer, I want to ask you this: have you ever earned more than $10,000 as a professional writer? Take your time, look around the interface. Figure out how to answer yes or no. So add up all the money that you've made as a professional writer through time, just little stuff you've been paid for, if you've been paid to blog, if you've been paid to write books, if you've been paid to write, write for a corporation or anything like that. Add up that amount of money and tell me if you've made more than $10,000. Okay. Wow, a lot of people voted really fast. 81% of you voted. I'll give you a few more seconds. Maybe we can get 10% more. Only 82%? Okay, that's 18% of you who did not answer the question. I'm just messing with you. Okay, so I'm going to close the poll in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.5, 1.25, 1 and 0. All right. So let me share the results with you. According to this poll, 94% of you say no. You haven't made more than $10,000 yet. 6% of you say yes. Okay. So 6% of you have been able to make some money as a professional writer, and it's not to make you feel bad based on where you are or what you've done so far. It's really just help us get a sense of just where you stand. what success you've had to this point. I know that figuring out, it's really interesting. I meet a lot of people, and I'm talking about every single day, Dr. Seldin. I get probably queries from maybe at least 5 people a day who say they want to figure out how to monetize their expertise. And writing is usually going to be a part of that, today I heard from a psychologist, and and the other day I heard from an author who'd written some children's books. I heard from a filmmaker today, 2 filmmakers today. I mean, always hearing, and I'm always hearing from these really creative people, mostly Black, who have amazing abilities from different backgrounds, who have heard that there's money in the internet. That's what they kind of, they see these success stories, right? And I almost compare sort of making a living or making money and opportunities on the internet almost like going to a jungle where you heard that the jungle's full of gold, but you've never been to the jungle, right? And so you get there, you're all excited because like I'm gonna pick up the gold, like I was. I got there, I got to the jungle, wasn't dressed for the jungle, didn't know how to get around the jungle. And I went in there, and what happens is it's just like the jungle. You instead of getting the goal that you're looking for, you get lost. You don't find what you're seeking. You lose what you have, and you might get robbed. You might literally get robbed, killed, or eaten by people who live in the jungle. And that's the honest to God truth. That's kind of how the internet works. Like I'll see people that'll come to me and they'll say, I built my first website. I'm so excited, and I spent $5,000 on my website. And I'm thinking, wait, you spent $5,000 on your website? I don't think you have to spend $5,000 to get a website. I know places that get a website built in a day for $200. But you only know that. You only know that if you live in the jungle. And I've lived in the jungle. And the thing is, though, that it was really costly for me to learn. Like I paid tuition in the School of Life by investing over and over in things that did not work. And then eventually you grab these things and you say, okay, this I got this, I'm going to hold on to this, and you piece that with something else that works, and then before you know it, you've got a career. But I can say that out of that couple million that I've made online, most of that money came in like the last 4 years. Before that, it was a loss leading process. It was like it was back when I was working for the man, and I was literally shoveling my paycheck into trying to build this other career. And so I can say that, one of the things that would have benefited me a lot is just having some help and understanding this. So what has your experience been like? I mean, I know that you do contract work as a writer.
Right. I do.
Yeah, so tell me about that. Like, how's that been in terms of, kind of figuring out a way to make a way, that kind of thing?
I think the key thing is to think outside of the box. Like, there are multiple streams of income that can be made via writing, and you have to think in terms of what are you passionate about. So I do a lot of curriculum writing because I did have a span in my career where not only was I teaching at the university level, but I've also done some K-12 work. So you have to think in terms of those textbooks your students are reading, the textbooks that you read. Someone wrote that information. Someone wrote those passages. The ACT, the SAT, the PSAT, the GMAT, the GRE. Those are all opportunities for people to do contract writing because those actually come from real live human beings. In addition to that, there are a lot of startup companies that have brilliant ideas or brilliant products, but they don't quite know how to use language to market it to their niche audience. So there are a lot of companies that are smaller companies that are trying to establish their brand that they're looking for writers to help them to frame it, carve it out in a way that is going to actually generate revenue for them. So they're willing to pay on the front end with the expectation that that work is going to lead to additional income for them. Additionally, there may be some people who are here who are interested in creative writing, doing more fictional writing. There are opportunities, various literary magazines. You can get paid for your short stories. You can get paid for your more fiction, memoirs, life narratives. There are lots and lots and lots of revenue sources out there. And chances are, regardless of what your niche is, what your market is, what your idea or concept is, there's someone or something that will actually pay you for it if you write well. And I can't emphasize that enough. I work with people. I have a consulting business where I work with some brilliant, brilliant people, many of whom sometimes get stuck because they haven't quite figured out how to articulate their vision in a way that other people will receive and understand it. So sometimes we do need that extra push, that mentoring, that opportunity to step out of the situation and say, you know what can I do to help invest in myself. What does that actually look like, especially as it relates to writing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think that part about investing in yourself, I know that was important. I know you and I both believe in that. I mean, I remember when we were struggling, getting our PhDs. I don't know about you, but I was on the ramen noodle diet, at and I had that blue car, and it was all sort of this, long-term sacrifice for the grind, and I wish the internet was then what it is now, because
right.
I could have done so much sooner. But I was in graduate. I think I was in graduate school from age 20. I started teaching college actually when I was 22, and I finished my PhD when I was 31. So imagine spending all your 20s studying, 8-10 hours a day, 7 days a week, Christmas time included. It was a sacrifice. And so it's funny because I'll see people that kind of want. They'll say, "Well, I want to do what you do. I want to have what you have," and I'm like, "I don't know if you really want that, because the price is high. Now the price, I think that in hindsight, you look back and you say, okay, I could have got the same thing for maybe a fifth of the cost, But at the same time, it's like I think that there are people that kind of don't understand the process that you have to go through to really get to where you want to get to. If you're not willing to invest if you're not willing to invest in yourself, then it's kind of hard to expect other people to invest in you. That's what I found.
I think that's a fair thing.
Absolutely. I mean, the fact is, and I'll say this before I let you, because I know you have some slides you want to get to. But I'll say this: we were taught this actually in financial theory that if you think of yourself as an investment, and you're the manager of that, you think of yourself as a company. As a business, and you're the manager of that business, right? You decide what you're going to invest your time in every day. We make investments all the time. We invest our time, we invest our energy, we invest our love, we invest our youth, we invest our health. Right. We're always investing. So if you are the manager of your company, you know more about your company than I do as an outside investor. Right. So I'm going to look to you, and this is actually a formal theory in finance. It's called signaling theory. If I'm thinking about investing in you, I'm going to look at you and say, okay, well, I need you to show me if you're a worthy investment or not. And so if you're not investing in you, then what you're clearly saying to me is that you're not a worthy investment. If you're asking me to take all the risk, look, I want you to hire me and give me money and all this other stuff, and then I say, well, what have you done to build your own career? What have you invested in? How did you get here? And you can't tell me that you know anything you've done over a long period of time. That tells me that you have already decided that you're not worth a worthy investment. And this is really a true theory that happens in finance. There's literally data that shows that with actual companies on the stock market, investors watch what the managers of those companies do to decide what they're going to do. They say, oh, well, he's buying more of the stock, I'm going to buy more. He's selling more, I'm going to sell more, because they're looking at those who know the value of that investment. So make sure you invest in yourself, whatever it is that you do. Now you have some slides. I want you to get a chance to do your thing and talk about what it takes to actually write in a way that's compelling. And I'll zip my lip up and enjoy the show. So please go ahead.
Okay, great. I'm going to share my screen with everyone. So let me know if you can see it. And you should see a PowerPoint in front of you.
Yes, I see one.
Okay, great. Okay, so hopefully everyone else does as well. And so as Dr. Watkins indicated, the whole purpose of this webinar is to help you to think in terms of how can you make a living as a writer. And so I want to start with one of my favorite quotes, and this is Toni Morrison. And she said that there's a book that you want to read, but it hasn't been written yet, then you must write it. And I love this quote, and I often use it with my students, because the fact that you're here tells me that you're compelled or perhaps propelled to write. So maybe it's not a book, maybe it is a grant, maybe it is a blog, it could be your memoirs, a novel, a short story, whatever it is that you have in your heart to write, think about it. What does that look like? And if it hasn't been written yet, then how can you ensure that when you do write it, that is going to be beneficial for you? So over the course of my years of serving as a writing instructor, being a writer myself, serving as an editor, there are several key things that I've noticed that good writers do. So as you can imagine, there are hundreds and hundreds of things, but I wanted to make this digestible. I'm one of those types of people that believes that if you give people things in pragmatic slices, it's easier for it to resonate and for them to internalize it. So good writers unpack and apply grammar, mechanics, usage rules in order to demonstrate proficiency and mastery of the English language. And simply put, that means that they know how to take a word, take a phrase, take a sentence, and make it come to life. A component of that is it's also engaging. They use sophisticated vocabulary, complex sentence structure, elevated diction. Why? Because part of writing, especially in a very public space or a public sphere, is recognizing that you have an audience. You're writing something. Why should they read it? Is it compelling? Is it persuasive? Is it engaging? And the last component basically is, again, another way of generalizing or summarizing what good writers can do. They can write a variety of pieces that are lucid and engaging. And I can't emphasize that enough, that being engaging, being excited, if you're passionate about what you do, and you can convey that via your words, then chances are people are going to be more enticed and more inclined to say, wait a minute, you have something to say, and I'm going to pay you for it. So one of the things I want you to think about is that there are multiple steps that lead to being a good writer. So if you're the kind of person that likes to visualize, I want you to envision a set of stairs. There are multiple steps in that stair. Now, some of you may say, well, I can skip steps 1 and 2 and jump up to the third one. Well, I'm not that kind of person, so there's a strong possibility if I skip the first 2 steps, I'm going to stumble, I'm going to fall, and I might hurt myself. So I want to use that metaphor in terms of talking about steps that you can take to enhance and invest in yourself as a writer. Now, step 1. Now, if you read the slide, you're probably thinking, oh, she has a typo here, because she used W-R-I-T-E and not R-I-G-H-T. Well, it's not a typo. It's very intentional. We live in a society where we tweet, we text, we Facebook status, we Instagram, we Snapchat, we pin things. We've really gotten away from being a culture that writes. And part of that has led to the proliferation of using abbreviations or code words that we may understand and communicate with each other with, but it's not the same thing as writing. So step 1 is finding and using the right word. So I want to give you an example here, because again, as I mentioned earlier, I really believe in being pragmatic. That when you're writing, you want to be mindful of how are you saying something. Are you using active and precise words? So here's an example, and these are not grammatically incorrect, but they're pretty mundane. They're pretty monolithic. He said, she stated, they found. And these are just some examples that one might find in one's everyday reading. I suggest that if you really want your reader to have a clear understanding of what you're saying, to care about what you're saying, then you want to use words that are going to wow them. And I call this the wow factor. He exhorted. She proclaimed. They illustrated. And you notice that it was just simply switching out one word that gave each of those greater significance, greater profoundness, and perhaps greater clarity for the reader in terms of trying to explain what is it that this person or that they are doing. So the key takeaway when you're trying to find and use the right words is you want to use active, precise, invigorating words, because you're trying to keep your reader engaged and interested in your topic. And here's the great thing about writing. You control that. You control the diction. You control the word choice that you use in your actual writing. So here are examples of some wow words. And you'll notice that this is not an inclusive list. These are basically just some A through E. And if you just pick one word, and I'll ask each of you just to pick one word, you'll probably notice that just in that one word, it creates a very clear picture for the reader. And I want to talk about something that Boyce alluded to earlier. When you're trying to describe something, when you're trying to illuminate something or to illustrate something, sometimes what may take 4 or 5 words can be done with just the one right word. And these are examples of some of those right words that help a reader to say, wow, or to be engaged, or to clearly understand what you're trying to say. And that's a nice bridge to step 2. So we have vocabulary, working vocabulary, we have several words that we've incorporated into our vocabulary, and now it's time to take that next step. And the next step is taking those words and putting them together. We call that syntax. Syntax is the way in which you take words and order them. So what does it mean to write lucid, complete sentences? Again, I think this does to show you an example. So here's an actual real sentence that I saw as I was doing some editing work some years ago, and I'll simply read it to you, and I'll actually ask you to read along as well. The high school gymnast cannot balance her practice schedule and her high school course load of English, math, and history classes. She was frustrated and had difficulty managing her time with school and gymnastics. Now, I want you to notice a couple of things the writer did repeatedly here. How many times is the word high school or school used? How many times is the word gymnast or gymnastics used? So clearly, I know that this is a high school student. I know that she's a gymnast. I know that because she's in school that I think it's pretty safe to assume she's taking certain classes. What the writer has done is they've given you an overload of information. And it's so much information here, it's really hard to decipher what's the point of this sentence. So that's step one. I mean, that's problem one. That is a muddled sentence. The other piece here is that this is a run-on sentence. And I tell people, think of a run-on sentence as two cars colliding. You know, you're sitting at a light, the person behind you isn't paying attention, they hit the gas pedal, boom, and hit you. Well, that's what it feels like for a reader. When you use run-on sentences, you jolt your reader. Because your reader's expecting a smooth ride, and actually what you've done is you've collided two ideas together that need to be separated. So here's a better, more concise way to articulate this. The gymnast could not balance her practice schedule with her high school course load. Therefore, she was often frustrated and had difficulty managing her time. You'll note I only had to use gymnast or gymnastics once, as well as the word school. Why? Because the most critical component here is who's the actor, what is the problem, and how is the problem relational to the second sentence. So I've added the conjunction therefore, because this is a continuation of thought. Now, I could have put a period after load and capitalized the S and she. Grammatically, that would have been appropriate as well. But when you have two ideas that are connected, and there's a pause in effect, or maybe the first one is going to cancel out or contradict the second one, you want to use a conjunction. So the takeaway, don't use excessive language to convey an idea. I'm sure some of you were taught a long time ago, you know, the longer the sentence, the more complicated it is. Right. In some contexts, that's perfectly okay. But when you're writing for an audience, and I can't emphasize that enough, in order to get paid as a writer, you always have to be mindful there's an audience. You're not writing for yourself. And there's nothing wrong with private writing, journaling, writing in a diary. All of those things are great. I journal. I find it to be very, very cathartic. But when I'm writing for an audience, I have to be mindful that unfortunately that person can't get inside my head. They can't say, oh, that's what Tyra meant by that. So it's my responsibility as a writer to make it clear. And that doesn't always mean using excessive language. Sometimes being concise is critical. And the most important thing to remember is that your reader should never have to guess how or if your ideas are connected. Again, that's your role and responsibility as the actual writer. So steps 1 and 2, and think of this again in a very natural hierarchy or order. You have words, you have sentences. Well, what is the purpose of sentences? Your sentences help you to form paragraphs. And this in many ways goes back to what many of you probably learned years ago, or for those of you who may still be in school, that you're learning your English classes, and you want to make sure that you have some particular topic that you're honing in on, and that topic and everything within that body's paragraph is connected. Because if it's not, again, you're going to find that your reader is puzzled, or your reader may not be inclined to continue reading. If that's the case, you're putting yourself at a disadvantage. Then obviously we go from the word to the sentence to the paragraph to the text, whether it is a book or a grant or a business plan or a brochure, or perhaps you are developing a website and you're using a lot of text for your website. Whatever the body of information is, it needs to be coherent and it needs to be unified. And at the bottom, I love this in a graphic, because when you think about it, sometimes we want to reduce writing to punctuation or grammar or spelling or structure. But writing is a process. Yes, there is an end product. Yes, there is an end goal. And as we go back to the stair metaphor, visualize yourself reaching the top. What does that top look like? And how do all of these various steps help lead you to that particular goal? So we can't extrapolate one of these and say, well, I don't have to do this, or this isn't important, or this isn't significant. And it's not the case with writing, because writing is process-oriented. And each step helps us solidify the step before and the step after it. So this lends itself to a question that I want to pose to all of you, and I want you to think about it. I mentioned earlier that one of the most critical things that you can do is invest in yourself. I'm going to use my story as an example. So I knew, based on what happened in my formative years in school, that grammar was not a strength at all. And when I went to college, and I had one English teacher in particular who said to me, your content is phenomenal. Your ideas are original, brilliant, thought-provoking, but your grammar is interfering with your reader's ability to understand what you're saying. And she said to me, what I want you to do, I want you to just go and take the time and sit down with some grammar textbooks. She said, just sit down with them, just explore them, do some of the exercises. But I'll be honest, I was offended. I'm like, wait a minute, I'm an English major. What are you trying to tell me, that my grammar is not good? But instead of being defensive and pushing back, I took her advice. And I taught myself grammar. And I started to study writers and other people who I thought wrote well. And so it makes me ironic that we're talking about writing, but my first tip was to read. Because when you're reading, especially the works of people that you emulate or you admire, or who you think have mastered the craft of writing, you're learning about sentence structure. You're learning about style. You're learning about voice. You're also enhancing your vocabulary because you're picking up on words that maybe you're unfamiliar with. So one of the first things I tell people, if you want to write well, read. I don't specify what you have to read, what genre of reading, but I would definitely say that you want to make sure that you are reading. And sometimes it's important to step out of your comfort zone, or as I say, lean into discomfort, because maybe it's a genre of writing that you're not as familiar with that will help you to have a greater understanding or greater clarity or maybe an epiphany about something that you want to write about.
You know what? Oh, no, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was going to jump in here and throw, I liked what you said about, having somebody that kind of broke you down. You're like, wait, I'm an English major. You're telling me my grammar's bad, and I remember I went through that same process. I went through, all through college, I was a pretty good student. I had a very high GPA. Okay. We had triple major in 4 years. I did it all, right? So I thought I was ready. I thought I was, I thought I was on top of everything. And of course, there's nothing like a really tough PhD program to really humble you and break you into little pieces. And I remember the first semester we had a writing class, writing for scholars, and I mean, the guy that taught that class, he talked to me like my vocabulary was at the same level as a puppy. You know what I mean? Like I had no, I was going to say a monkey, but that's, I'm a black man. I don't want to hear the word monkey. But seriously, like I really felt, I mean, he broke me down. And there's nothing like that where you just like, wait a minute, everything I thought I knew about myself as a writer, as a scholar has been completely crushed. And the thing is, though, that it forced me to go back and tear it all down and rebuild, more carefully. And the thing is that, if you don't go through that, a lot of people go through life where they never get that experience. They get to go through and thinking that they've got it all together, and they don't understand why no one wants to hire them, why nobody wants to read their stuff, why they can't make any money as a writer. And they're like, wait a minute, but my stuff is good. I'm just as good as so-and-so. And, in fact, I had this friend a long time ago, who was a hip hop artist, and he just knew that he was the best rapper in the world. And when a lot of his friends were like, "Oh yeah, you got a new song out, huh? Okay, that's nice," and he didn't understand why his friends weren't supportive of the music, why he couldn't get a record deal, why he wasn't making any money. And unfortunately, it's because his music just wasn't connecting with the audience, and no one really took him aside to tell him that. And when they tried to, I had a friend that actually was brave enough to come and say, "Hey, maybe you want to think about, how you're delivering your lyrics." And he got really offensive. He got really upset. He was like, "No, I'm not changing anything. If people don't like my music, it's because they don't understand my music." And so he was like, "Well, okay, you just keep being a broke rapper, because that's all that's going to happen, because you don't understand that there's a reason why you're not getting what you want." And that's hard for us to accept. it's hard for us to accept that what we've done to this point just isn't enough to get us what we want. But I'll be quiet again and let you continue. But I thought that was a great point.
Thank you. And actually, I want to just speak on that. I tell people that writing is an extension of your soul. And sometimes because of that, we tend to be very territorial, very protective of our writing. But we also have to be open to constructive criticism, open to people who have our best interests at heart, who are actually trying to help us to be better. And that's a great segue to the second point, writing groups. And I'm not sure how many of you did writing groups when you're in high school or in college or peer editing, but we're finding, especially in a lot of areas where you have individuals who are interested in writing, there are people who are forming writing groups, adult writing groups, where writers from different backgrounds who are vested in different genres of writing will come together for the purposes of getting feedback and then giving feedback. So if you're in an area and you're thinking, well, how do I even begin to find this? I would say start by Googling. Just Google writing groups in wherever you are. And if you find that maybe they're not in your area, you may want to look to see if they're in online writing groups. My only caution with the online writing group is you want to make sure that obviously we're talking about your intellectual property. And so intellectual property, unlike traditional property, like if someone went and, stole my bike, okay, I can say that was my bike, right? But when you're writing is your intellectual property, sometimes you have to be careful because someone can say, well, I wrote it. So the only thing with the online piece is not to discourage you, but just make sure it's legitimate writing group. And then here's the part that I love. If your area doesn't have writing groups, or you can't or don't feel comfortable joining one online, start your own. Chances are you know at least 2 or 3 other people who love to write, or at least 2 or 3 other people who will be honest with you about your writing. Why not meet at a local, coffee shop or a local library and literally just exchange your ideas with each other? That's a great way to get feedback. Now, this last one is the one that I love the most, and I'll explain why. Take an online writing course. About 4 or 5 years ago, I was working in a school district working with a colleague who I respected dearly, and this was someone who was in advanced leadership, executive leadership. And when you're working for certain entities and you receive federal money, you have to do reports. You have to give summaries of where the money went, how it was spent, and so this required extensive writing. Well, this particular colleague, who was, again, very smart, very well-versed in the subject area, had great difficulty writing. And so he was very smart, so he had befriended several other people who were great writers, and he happened to have a really good executive assistant who did a lot of writing for him. And I remember pulling him aside, and I said, please don't take this the wrong way. Now, keep in mind he was in his early 40s. I said, it wouldn't hurt you to take an English class online. And he looked at me aghast. And I said, no, I said, sir, I don't expect you to go and take English 101 or, English 102 or step foot on a college campus, but I think it would be advantageous for you to take a writing course. And I simply explained to him, I said, at this juncture in your professional career, you're going to continue to write. Writing is going to be a necessary tool for you to advance. And I said, you're lucky because you have one right now in a support capacity who can write. But what happens in your next position if that person can't? At the end of the day, the onus is on you, because when you write that document and you sign off on that document, you're the person who is going to be ultimately responsible for it. They're going to see your name. So I don't want anyone to see this as a slight, because I think there's something very comforting and rewarding about being able to take a course online where you're still getting the mentoring, the help, the resources that you want and need, but it doesn't require you walking down to your local college campus. So again, these are just 3 things, many things that you won't even want to think about to enhance your writing skills, which in turn becomes a source of income for you. So that's all that I have in terms of the PowerPoint, but I definitely want to continue, Boyce, if there's anything else you want to add and take some of the questions that our attendees have for us.
Yeah. I want to hammer back into the last point you just made. I hope it's. Sometimes I call her Tyra because that's what we call each other, Tyra and Boyce. But yeah. Dr. Seldin, I gotta give the sister her credit and respect. How many times? And I think I know what the answer is this, but how often do you see people that maybe went to college and actually majored in English who have major problems with grammar. I mean, the educational system, it sucks. I mean, I don't know. Have you witnessed this kind of thing yourself?
I have, and I think what tends to happen and for those of you who are out there listening, just kind of nod your head. I can't see you, obviously, but I think what happens is that and I was guilty of this slightly myself, when you have a student whose content is brilliant and who has read the materials and who's able to analyze, we sometimes have a tendency to say, okay, well, I'm going to overlook your grammar because your content is so good. And I think what happens is that for students who are very attentive and attuned and who have done the work, there's a tendency to reward those students for what they've done well, but not to really challenge them in areas that need to be improved. So you have lots of people who are, like I said, brilliant and maybe majored in English or who've done writing. I know people who've written dissertations, right, and who've written numerous books, but there's still a component of their writing that needs to be improved. And I think, part of that is that we need to be brutally honest and to be honest in a way that says, look, I care. I want you to do better. I want you to do well. Don't take this as a critique, but take it as an opportunity for growth, for additional success.
Yeah, I think that's so true. I mean, I think about, you remember, I run, I'm part of a team that runs a lot of blogs, and we get a lot of readers, and it floors me. I mean, I wasn't an English major, but I assumed English majors knew how to write. And I have seen stuff written by English majors that it floored me. I remember thinking maybe I remember literally one English major I knew who had a degree in that in that field at the college level, and I really read her writing. And I was thinking, well, maybe she didn't finish high school. I knew someone who was a master's in teaching, and the writing, the grammatical breakdown was so bad. I mean, again, I'm the kid who failed English class. I don't know. I don't really know a dangling participle from a piece of chicken. I don't. But I just, and I see lawyers. I knew of an attorney who would write things. He put it out to the public. It'd be read by thousands of people. There would be some like typos and run-on sentences and just all kinds of stuff. So I think that what I've concluded is very simple, that the educational system is just really, really bad. I don't know why. And even at the university level, there's a lot to be desired. But I think, thankfully, we have the internet, which allows us to just do so much more than we could have done before. We just have to have the desire to do it. I mean, if it weren't for the internet, we couldn't all be sitting here talking right now if it were not for the web, learning from each other. And also, it also gives us an opportunity to learn from each other in a cost-effective way. And so, as we move on, and I want to get some of the questions now, I shared with you guys the link to the class that Dr. Seldin and I teach. It's called How to Make a Living as a Writer. It's the same topic or same title as this webinar, and it's not really a class as much as it is ongoing mentorship, consulting, coaching, and support. The number one goal in all of this is to help you become successful in what you're trying to do. So, what she's mentioned about forming writing groups, we can help you do that, but utilizing technology so that even if you live in the remote parts of Alaska or you live in China, like Ava, you can still find a community around the world. People that can help you. We talk about blogging, and I know blogging. That's how I've done my thing. With blogs, how to do book signings, how to publish your book, even if a publisher doesn't want you. Things like that. I mean, just anything that you want to know about sort of building your career, building your brand, getting your writing out there, connecting with your audience, and really succeeding at what you want to do. That's what this coaching platform is all about. And just so you know, for the next 3 days, if you use the code, let's see, I wrote the code down. It's Writer1022, because today is 1022. If you use the code Writer1022, you can get 50% off the monthly cost now and forever. So that means if you're a member for the next 1,000 years or whatever, however long you live, you will have 50% cost. Our cost is 50% lower than everyone else. And I also want you to know that the cost will go up because the problem is that, helping people with writing is kind of labor intensive. So we can't take a whole lot of people. But we know what we're doing. You can look us up. We're not a couple of fake PhDs. You got these people that get their PhDs on the weekends, Tyra. You've seen that. We're not in that category. Verifiable results. We're also not like those professors that just teach you a bunch of theory that can't sort of connect it to the real world. We know that people are trying to eat. People are trying to succeed. People are trying to get there. And one of the things that I enjoy about online teaching as opposed to the teaching I did in the classroom over the last 20 years is that I can really dive into the trenches with the students. Meaning, after we talk about, in fact, I actually came up with this. I came up with this cool acronym, Tyra. I'm going to share this with you. The TAP model of learning. And it's TAPPP. We talk about it in the Black Wealth Bootcamp. And the T stands for theory, which means I'm always going to give you the background. I want you to see the higher level reasoning for why you're doing what you're doing. Never do anything without knowing why you're doing it. A stands for application. After you get the theory, you need to apply it. You need to be told how to do it. Where do I hammer? Where do I put the nail? But then the practice comes into that sort of day-to-day drill of consistent effort toward your long-term goal. You have to form. I find that the culprit in our inability to achieve the goals that we achieve is typically hidden in our subconscious in terms of the habits that we have, the things that we do on a day-to-day basis that build the life in which we live. So I found that when I wanted to become a successful writer, I wanted to get off the corporate plantation, I wanted to work for myself, and I wanted to do these other things, build my brand, I was better at it when I literally became hypnotized by my goal, to the point where that was what I did every single day, consistently every morning. So every morning I would get up and I would just start writing, and I was writing all day long. And it didn't matter if it was by 10 people or 10,000 people. And at first, no one was reading anything that I wrote. I would send my articles out to my friends, and they'd be like, "What is this crap? Like, couldn't bother me." And they really, I was really the crazy professor. Like, why are you doing that? You're supposed to be going to get tenure and all that. And I wrote a bunch of research papers. It was kind of boring for me. And then eventually, more and more people started reading my stuff. I learned how to build a list. I learned how to use technology. I studied. I read literally hundreds and hundreds of articles on the latest technology and the way to reach people, because I saw the internet as a giant classroom. I said, "Oh my God, I can actually have a classroom. Instead of having 40 students, I can have 40,000." And so eventually I got an opportunity to write for AOL Black Voices back before they were connected with the Huffington Post. That when they got connected with HuffPo, everything changed. But before that, they gave me access to this platform, and they were like, "Well, we don't know if we can pay you to write here, Dr. Watkins, and so we're going to get back to you and let you know if we can come up with any money to pay you." And I said, "I'll make it easy for you." I said, "I'll write for you for free." I said, just give me a login, and I will write for you for free, and I will show you why you should let me write for your platform." And they were like, "Okay, well, this crazy dude wants to write for free." And I went in there at Dr. Seldin. I was in there. I was writing more articles as an unpaid employee back when I used to be okay with being someone's employee. I wrote more articles as an unpaid person than the paid people were writing. The people getting paid $80,000 or $100,000 a year, I was writing more than them. They didn't understand it, but I understood it. And what I understood was, I said, this is me as a business, professor thinking. I said, you are at the time, they were the largest Black news website in the country. I said, you're giving me access to millions of Black people, and all I have to do is write good articles and impress them. And I also was able to build my list. So I was picking up, my writers as I was going along, my readers, and putting them in a list, because I knew that one day, no matter how good things are, I knew that one day this corporation was going to behave like a corporation. Corporations don't have a heart. They'll just drop you in a second and not tell you anything. And so, just as I expect, that eventually they emailed us and said, we've merged with Huffington Post and all the freelancers are fired, including you. So I was like, okay, well then, all right, because there weren't any clear criteria. They just said all the freelancers have to go. But by that time, guess what? I had 25,000 people on my list. So at that point, I was able to keep writing, keep doing my thing. But then I just had to learn how to monetize without a corporate daddy, if you will. So that sort of consistent writing, having that in your culture, I'm talking about your personal culture. I think it's really, really important. I remember one morning, and I think also looking for ideas. One thing I did was when I became really obsessed with trying to find a way to succeed. You know, I wanted to leave my job, and I wanted to do what I loved, and I knew I had a passion for writing. I knew I had a skill, and so I was always looking for ideas. So I remember one morning I woke up, and I'm not joking. I woke up and I had an idea to write an article on what I called financial liposuction, which was cutting the fat out of your budget or whatever. And I sat down at the article or sat down at the computer, and it was Christmas time, so I knew people were thinking about budgets and money and everything else, and New Year's resolutions and all that. So so I wrote the article in 20 minutes. And I sent it to a contact I had at ABC News. They'd ignored me up until that point, but I sent it over, and literally within an hour, my article was published on the cover of ABCNews.com. And that was, and here's the thing, that when I look back on that one example, what got me there was, A, I had a consistent habit of writing, so I could write good articles very, very quickly. Two, I was paying attention to what people were thinking, what people wanted, what they were interested in. Three, I was always on call. I treated my career like a doctor on call. You have so many people that are just lazy with it. You say, hey, why don't you write something, or what? This is a hot topic. Why don't you write something about Black Lives Matter or whatever? And they'll say, oh, sure, but it'll take me 3 weeks. I'm looking at them like, do you understand how the internet works? It works in such a way that you wait 3 days and that topic and so and one more example I'll give you, and then I'll get to the rest of my quick points here, because I actually want to give some points. I didn't make slides like Dr. Seldin did, but I do have some points to make. And actually, Tyra, if you want, you can cut the screen share so they can see us in the big picture. But another example was, there was it was 4th of July weekend, and this was like maybe 06, 07, something like that. And on that day, everybody else at the AOL Black Voices audience was actually, I think your screen share is still on. Let me see that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, let's see here. I can see if I can chop that. Yeah, can you maybe you can make me the presenter? Maybe that'll help.
Okay.
But I'll keep talking as you do this.
Okay, I did.
Okay. So let's see. It says, "Ask me if I want to share my screen," and the answer is not yet. Okay. You have to forgive us. We're figuring out this webinar technology. But there was, so it was 4th of July weekend. Everybody's out picnicking and partying and whatever. And as I said, I treated my writing like I was a doctor on call. So everywhere I went, I had my laptop with me in my backpack just in case something popped off, because I was writing more in terms of current events, stuff like that. And that weekend, something really big happened in the media. And I don't have to go into what it was, because it was kind of a grim sort of thing. But I was the first person to write it. It happened like 2 or 3 in the morning. And I saw it pop up on CNN, so I wrote the article really fast, and I sent it over. I put it up on Black Voices, and by the next day, about 1.2 million people had read this article. Right now, here's the thing, right? So at the end of the articles, I had my little bio, and I had my little link where people could put their name on a list and subscribe to my articles. And so off that one article, I maybe got maybe 10,000 subscribers. And also, not to mention the million people who read the article, maybe let's say 20%, 30% of them actually took the time to say who wrote this, right? And so that, it was sort of little guerrilla tactics like that that really, I think, are tailor-made to the structure of the internet, that allowed me to find a way to make a way. The hustle factor is so critically important, but it's sort of like this intelligent hustle kind of thing. But if you're not in it with both feet, you might as well not even try. And that's what I find. If you're not really trying to do this, don't do it. Because it's going to make you frustrated and all this other stuff. So before I get to the rest of my points, I'm going to go through some of the questions, and maybe Tyra Dr. Seldin can help answer some of these. Okay. Does the information, Sarah McGriff wants to know, does the information in this webinar apply to screenwriters? Dr. Seldin, what would you say?
I would say definitely. And the reason why I say that is because it goes back to, there are universal rules of engagement when it comes to writing. So a good writer, regardless of the task, regardless of the genre, is a good writer, because that writer has actually mastered the gift of language. So I would say absolutely positively that what we talk about, what we cover, are various skills that would make for an exciting screenplay, or maybe a book, or a novel, or a memoir. So yes, there are specific rules that govern every genre of writing, but they're universal rules. And I think that's what's critical, because once you master those, you can do anything.
Absolutely. I mean, I just talked to a screenwriter today, a brother named Mark Harris, who made a really good movie called Black Coffee, which you've probably seen on.
I've seen that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think BET picked it up. It's a great film.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a new one coming out called Stock Options, and I like
Okay.
Mark. Writer. I like him as he's not just a screenwriter, but he's also a director.
Mm-hmm.
But I like him as a filmmaker because he presents these really conscientious black images. He shows black love without people fighting, or nobody getting killed. He shows brotherhood with black men not wanting to hurt each other. He shows, all the possibilities that exist in our community when we're as beautiful as we're capable of becoming.
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking to him about being a screenwriter, and I said, how did you write your first script? Where did that come from? And he said, well, it was the late 90s. I just wanted to write a script. So I went to the library and I bought a book on how to write a script. And he said that he wrote his first script literally looking at the book and following the guidelines on how to write a script. And now, his movies are being picked up by BET, TV One, Centrix, all these places. So yes, I think to me, being a screenwriter is a matter of being able to communicate in a certain way, just like writing musical lyrics or hip hop lyrics. You just know the language. And then sometimes when you're writing, in fact, when I'm writing, I feel more like a musician or a rapper more than I feel like, like a grammar person, right? It doesn't mean that the grammar doesn't matter, but it's sort of like the feel. At the end, I'm just like, okay, this doesn't feel right. I'm writing at the wrong time, the wrong topic, for people in the wrong way, and so you get that feel on an intuitive, instinctual level, which comes from literally thousands of hours of practice. You don't get that just by, having someone tell you how to do it one time. Let's see, Deborah asks, how do I know if I have the ability to write? Should I test the waters, and if so, how? What do you think?
That's a good question. I think, there's nothing wrong with putting yourself out there just to see, but I think that it goes back to being a part of some sort of community, whether it's a virtual community or a real world community, where you can at least ask someone else to give you feedback. I think that's critical. It's like that student who aspires to be an NBA player, let's say hypothetically, but has yet never played basketball or has never played organized basketball, just plays in the backyard. So I would say, if you have a good friend that you trust, or if there's someone that will be honest in their feedback with you, just go ahead and just get someone to read it and give you some feedback. And then if there's a market or an audience for it, try. I mean, I'm one of those people, I think it never hurts to try. It never hurts to try. And if you're not successful the first time, don't give up. Keep trying. There are many opportunities. When I say there are literally thousands of streams of income out there, just tucked away, hidden, for writers, there really are.
I agree. Yeah, definitely. Well, you have to test the waters. I mean, the market is honest with you. The market will tell you if you're good or if you're not. And also the funny thing is, I do a lot of writing for the web, and I find that there are so many other elements that really come into play when it comes to writing, like even not just the topic and the timeliness and stuff like that, but also even the title. Even the title. A lot of people don't know this, but a lot of these big blogs like BuzzFeed, they literally pick 27 titles for every article to see which one is going to work. Because if you're trying to write online and you don't understand social media and technology, you're dead. That's where it's at. Let's see here. Bo asks, how does rewriting published articles work? I guess my answer to the question would be that you can rewrite some of it as long as you're making sure you give appropriate credit to the source and because I think you can recite information, right? You can say according to blah, 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 right?
You want to attribute it to whatever the original source was.
Okay. And Kenya Goodson asks, how lucrative is writing for online blogs, and how does one get started? So I guess that might be my question. I think it's very lucrative. It's but it depends on how you do it, right? There are people who will write for outlets that already exist, and some people can make it work. Most people cannot. About 98% of the people I know who write online do not make money with their blogs. and the two key things that I believe most writers are seeking when they write online is one, a decent sized audience, and two, the ability to pay your rent, right? And so I guess breaking it into those two categories, let's say that you're approaching, the Griot or the Root.com or USA Today or Huffington Post to write for them. They know that it's for them. It's a buyer's market. You're supplying your labor, but they know that there's far more supply than there is demand. So what happens at a place like Huffington Post or the Griot is you have a few people that do okay. In the Root, they pay good, for articles if you can get them to publish your article. But I stopped writing for other outlets, even though all these, a lot of these outlets, they know about my stuff. They've seen it, trending and all that. But I stopped trying to write for them because I got tired of always having to pitch my ideas and get approval and then having somebody tweak the idea to the point where you're writing about something you're not even passionate about anymore, taking your article, chopping it into 1,000 pieces, deciding when they will and will not give you a voice. It was annoying me. I mean, to be honest with you, it was really pissing me off. And I said, no, I don't want to live like this. How can I create some of this on my own? So here's the other thing. At a place like Huffington Post, most of their writers are not paid. They just pay you with the platform. They're like, oh, well, you get to write for Huffington Post and you get to say you're a HuffPo contributor. Well, guess what? When Ariana Huffington sold that company for $300 million, her freelancers were filing a class action lawsuit against her because they said, you're using our labor, you're not compensating us, but you're selling this company for $300 million. So here's the thing, though. At HuffPo, not everybody's unpaid. I know people there who make a lot of money as writers and editors and as personalities, news person. Guys like Mark Lamar-Hill, the professor. We go way back. There are people there who are doing well, but there's a huge underclass of writers who are sort of living off the hope and the dream in a way, almost like a hoop dream in a way. It's a lot like the basketball hoop dream, So they'll put these articles in the Huffington Post. They get to tell their friends they wrote for HuffPo, but they don't understand that if HuffPo does not promote your article, if they don't put it on the front page, it's probably not going to get read by a lot of people. Sometimes you get lucky, but most of the time you don't. Number two, they're not compensating you. So the question is, at what point does the monetization process occur? At what point are you able to see clear benefits to your writing career as a result of participating on that platform? So I think writing online is something that it took me a long time to figure out how to make it work. But basically now we have a network of blogs. We spent lots of money. We spent thousands of dollars getting people on our team trained on how to monetize a blog, how to put the advertising in the right way, how to get traffic for a blog, how to use social media to get people to come through your website. All these little things. Because I see a lot of people who will say, okay, I'm going to create my own blog. But what they don't know also is that about 98% of all blogs don't get more than 100 readers a day. So they'll get 150 readers and they're excited, like, woohoo, look at that, and the thing is that, the question is that really getting you where you want to get to? Is it really giving you the income you want? Is it giving you the reach that you want? And when we got good at it, we learned how to take a blog from 0 to 60 like that. We could take a blog from nothing to 20,000 readers in a day. And it's because we figured out the process. We had to invest in it, though. It takes time. Okay. So how lucrative is it, Kenya? I guess to answer your question more specifically, it can be really lucrative for some people. But for those who don't get it, I'll give you an example of lucrative. Here's an example of lucrative in the Black community. Jamarlin Martin, who runs Bossip.com, Madame Noir, and Moguldom Media, where they make films and stuff like that. Jamarlin was named the Emperor of Digital Media. Last year, he made $15 million. I think that's about maybe $50,000 a day. And he's going to make more this year. He's going to probably cross the $20 million mark this year. Lamar and Ronnie Tyler, who run blackandmarriedwithkids.com, where they promote the idea of black marriage and family, they're going to make about $1.2 million this year. Our platforms are going to clear $1 million this year. So there are people who figured it out, but the common denominator amongst these three, and I know these guys pretty well, is that we didn't just sort of throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. We studied the business model of the internet, and you have to do that in order to make things happen the way you want them to happen. So go for it. There is money out there, but you have to do it the right way. Asia Goss asks, how to develop my platform as a writer and a speaker without being forceful and pushy. What do you think, Dr. Seldin?
Well, I think you have to leverage your knowledge. There's something that you know or that you know very well. You're a subject matter expert on something, whatever that subject is. So you don't have to be pushy, you don't have to be forceful. You just want to make sure that you are articulating your message in a way that is going to be well received by an audience. And once you establish like a relationship, a rapport with your audience, people will want more from you. They want to hear what you have to say. And that becomes a springboard for doing public speaking because people already feel like they can identify with you.
All right. Well, I love it. I love it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through some quick points I wrote down here on some things you might want to do to kind of begin your process toward making a living as a writer. Once again, we sent you the link for our class. The class is no nonsense. It's low cost compared to what it would cost you to go learn this at a university. In fact, most universities really can't teach you the stuff that we could teach you and do the things for you that we can do. That's just a fact. And believe me, we've taken way too many classes. We know the college experience on both sides of the fence. First thing, if you want to begin your pathway to become a professional writer, make sure you understand the business models, understand how people make money on the internet. Money doesn't magically drop from the sky. There are monetization models that maybe come from advertising, may come from affiliate sales, it may come from e-commerce. It all depends. Understand those models and how people make their money. So if you see a big website that somebody tells you BuzzFeed is worth $1 billion, which I bet you they're worth over $1 billion. Figure out why does BuzzFeed, why are they worth over $1 billion? Don't just think that it just happens because they're a big platform. There are a lot of people think that the words rich and famous go together, that if you have a platform that's famous or a person that's famous, they're automatically rich. No, money only comes if it's monetized properly. So the business model matters. Number two, produce consistently. Don't just say you want to do it and then just pop in once every month or two or whatever, or try for a while and then it doesn't work, so then you go off and do something else for a while. Decide if you really want to do it. It's like you're starting a relationship. So is this career going to be? Are you going to be in this relationship or are you not? If you're not going to be there consistently every day, then don't do it. Also, even if you're not moving fast, even if you're not doing a lot, just do a little bit at least once every couple of days. That's what I find to be a good rhythm. Because here's the other thing: when your writers get used to, they flow with your rhythm. So if you're sporadic and you disappear for 2 weeks, then they're going to say, oh, this person doesn't write very often, so I'm only going to come to their blog once a month. But if they see you there every day or several times a day, then they're going to check back several times a day in order to remain connected with you. So be consistent. Whatever you do, make sure you're consistent. 3, connect to the trends. One of the things I found is that, let's say you got a book and you're trying to get everybody to know about your book. Well, the world, it ain't all about you. It ain't all about, like if you write that book, the world is not going to stop to all just pay attention to you talk about your book every day. That's not the way to work. The way the world works, that's not the way to get what you want. The way to receive is to start off by giving, to get in tune with the people who support you. Every single day when I'm out here writing and doing my thing, in my mind, I work for the people who support me. I'm there for them. I want to know what they're thinking about. I want to know what they're interested in. I want to know what they're talking about so I can be of help to them in understanding that, in interpreting this issue, etc. So you have to read the news, watch it, what's happening, because in a way it's a lot like being a surfer. A good surfer, no matter how good a surfer is, he or she cannot create the waves. They can only ride the waves that come through. But if they're a lazy surfer, then when the big wave comes through, they're going to miss it. So the thing is, by being a writer kind of like on call, you're paying attention to what's happening so that when something big does occur, you can hop right in there. You can write either your editorial, write your news piece, do a video blog, you have a podcast, whatever it is that you do to communicate, you could be right there first and foremost. Just like you look at the brand of CNN. What's their brand? I don't know. For a long time, one of their slogans was like something like "Whatever happens, CNN is there." Right? That's how people get familiar with the brand. They get to know you. Next, I would say that you can't operate on the web without knowing technology. You want to read tech magazines constantly. You want to learn what the latest techniques are, learn what people are doing. You can't, in this world, I'm sorry, I just don't think it's very easy to build much of anything without extensive use of the internet in a meaningful way. Next, I would say that if you're writing online, make sure that you always ask yourself before you write any piece, why am I writing this? Why am I writing this? Why is this interesting? Why should anybody care about this? People are busy. The internet is a little bit of a meritocracy, which is a good thing, right? The best content tends to rise to the top, but it's also a place where people are very busy. They don't have time. They got a million things they could be doing, a million other articles they could be reading, a billion other websites they could be looking at. Ask yourself, what about this particular piece is going to make a busy person stop what they're doing to read this article, to do anything other than read the title. 90% of your readers are going to just read the title and keep going. What's going to make people stop and actually read that piece? If you don't ask yourself that question, then what's going to happen is you'll end up spinning your wheels and creating things that people don't want. The last piece I would say, and I'll throw this in there, is that marketing matters. Distribution is everything when it comes to getting your content out there. I'll see people that'll put stuff on a blog and they'll just sit there and they think, if I make it, they will come. No, they won't. No, they won't. Your blog, literally, if it's not connected to social media, if you're not using Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, sending it out, kind of connecting with people, maybe doing Facebook marketing or whatever, then no one will see your stuff. And one thing that people, when I talk to other scholars and writers and stuff who kind of say they want to do stuff similar to what we do, they kind of sometimes come at it like there's magic, like there was luck, you luckily were able to figure out this formula of getting your stuff out there, and we've done well. I can say I've had articles read by well over 1 million people, stuff like that. Every week I have something that maybe hits a couple 100,000, etc. But here's the thing: what people don't know is it's not luck, and it's not because I'm just so special and so wonderful and amazing. A lot of it's marketing too. We spend probably $1,000 a day on marketing now, on online marketing. And I thought that was a lot of money until I saw what Jamarlin and Mogul Media spends. I think they spend $5,000 to $7,000 a day. I mean, think about that. $1,000 a day is 365,000, so 5,000 a day is about 1.6 million. So they spend probably 2 million of that 15 they made on marketing alone. You have to get your message out there. It doesn't mean you have to spend that money on marketing, but it means you always want to be thinking, how do I get this in front of people? That's what matters. It's not just the quality of your idea. It's the quality of the idea mixed with the marketing of the idea that actually makes it work. Dr. Seldin, do you have something you want to add to that?
The only other thing I can add is, again, know your audience, leverage your knowledge base. If you feel like you have been, called to do this and you're passionate about it and you have something you want to say, going back to the Toni Morrison quote that I started with, then say it. Be smart about it, be thoughtful, be authentic and genuine in your presentation of your ideas. And most importantly, learn the craft of writing. It will open doors. When they say knowledge is power, the pen is mightier than the sword, those are not just mantras or euphemisms. It is very true. If you can learn how to use words to carve out meaning, to impact and to affect people, you literally can, write your own ticket. So that would be the last two things I have to add.
Okay, but that's good information. And so what I want to do is I'm going to try to fly through a couple more questions. Okay. There's so many good questions here, and I'm trying to think if I can save these. You know what? I'm thinking. Oh gosh, I'll just. I'll just take one for the team. I'm going to give everybody here my email address. This is actually my real email address. This is when I actually read. And just so you know, Deborah, I see you're asking, how do I choose what topics to write about? And I'll make sure I answer that. But what I'm going to do is I'm sending my email address out to everybody. It's voice@boycewatkins.com. I already get a few hundred emails a day, and I've formed a technique to be able to fly through them pretty quickly. So if you'd like to send your question to me, you can. I encourage you, if you want to really learn from us, I think the investment is worth it. I wouldn't sell you something if I didn't truly believe that it's beneficial, and I can truly say that I've spent thousands and thousands of dollars getting this. I mean, people, they go $80,000, $100,000 in debt to go to college. And unfortunately, what happens is sometimes you learn certain things, but you're not prepared to survive in this changing world that we live in. And so that's what we're focused on. We're two college professors who are focused on preparing you for the world, not just to learn from a book. Someone just asked, what was it? How do you pick the topics that you want to write about? Me personally, I pick from passion. Dr. Seldin, how do you pick your topics?
Same deal. Something that I'm passionate about, something that I feel like I know enough to actually say something about it that's worthwhile. where I'm not necessarily just replicating what someone else has done, but I'm adding something new or more flavorful to the conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I agree. And so, let's see. Brian Jones is asking, did you self-publish your books, or did you end up finding a publishing company? Well, I created a publishing company mainly because my ideology is that Black people have to own things. I think part of the reason that we end up getting exploited so much is because we don't own the things that we're involved with. So when I first started, I created a publishing company. I helped my brother found Great Black Speakers, which became the largest Black-owned speakers bureau in the country, because I wanted my speeches to get booked through a Black company. I wanted my books published through a Black company. I wanted to do my media through a Black company, so I created Your Black World LLC. And so everything I did was Black owned. And here's the thing, that's another thing we actually teach you in the class, is we teach you how to self-publish a book. We teach you how to find the editors and how to, do the graphics and all that. And so the funny thing, this is why Dr. Seldon and I partnered on the class, is that, she's definitely the technique person. She'll show you how to make sure that when you put together your pieces, that they're good. When you write that book, that it's a good book. And then where I come in is I come in as the writing / business guy, and I can tell you how to actually get your brand built, how to sell your book, how to do. I've done a ton of book signings, and I know just kind of the do's and don'ts of book signings. For example, a lot of people, back when I first got started, book signings were actually really exciting to me. Now they're not nearly as exciting, because I always check the conditions based on experience. And also, if Dr. Seldin tells me that you're a good writer, and we've got a role for a writer or blogger or whatever, then that's where I would actually want to look to find writers, because you actually be able to certify that you're actually good at what you do. Because unfortunately, it can be difficult to find really quality writers sometimes. It's really hard. So let's move on to the next question. Stevie Ward asks, does writing and music count, or writing lyrics? I think it matters. That was similar to the screenplay question, right?
Mm-hmm. I think so. I think that, anytime you are using language to convey ideas or concepts, that it's still writing. The only difference is that oftentimes when you think in terms of lyrics, there's music, there are other elements. But think about the best songs that are timeless. Chances are there are some powerful words that singer used. And think about songwriters who have been prolific in their careers. They've mastered language. Same thing with your rappers. Like, using the Drake, for example. Like, a lot of people like Drake. Well, Drake is, some would say, is a lyricist, or some people would say, Tupac was a lyricist. But what are lyrics? Lyrics are words. So to answer your question, again, it goes back to, maybe I'm biased about this, but anything that uses language as that first foundational step, to me, needs to be done well. Period.
I love it. Okay, I see Anissa Abdullah. You have asked 4 questions, and many of them are very, very long. So, Anissa, because we got so many people in here, I'm going to pick one question, and then the others, you can email me some of those questions, but it sounds to me like you might want to jump into the class, because I think you could benefit from that sort of direct support. But Anissa asked this interesting question, Dr. Seldin. She says, or he, I'm not sure if it's a he or she. I know an Anissa, and it's a she, so I'll say that. Right. Let's see. Would you trust a non-melanated person, I guess not Black, to edit a project that uses terminology that may be offensive to them, even if they say they're an objective professional? What do you say?
Okay, that's an interesting question, because I think editing, you have to trust your editor, period, because editing involves a certain level of intimacy, right? Because here's a writer who's poured out his or her ideas. An editor is coming behind that person to make sure that everything's done just right. If there's any trepidation about whether or not that person is vested in your success or truly understands your topic, then you may want to go in a different direction. So I don't know if it's so much a function of like racial discrepancies in terms of the writer and the editor, but it really is a function of, does the editor understand what you're trying to do? Because if you get the wrong editor, they're going to potentially change the entire scope of your project. It may feel as if, it's no longer yours, that you co-authored this. So I think you really want to make sure that you vet your editor. That's a component. We haven't talked about that a lot, so we talk more about the writing. But, when a lot of people write, the next step for them is to find an editor. And I would say you want to make sure you're selecting someone you can trust, because those are your words. your name is going to be attached to that. And if they change it in a way that is not comfortable for you, then it changes the entire scope of the project. So if you have any, it sounds like you're making some hesitation, then you may want to step back for that and try to find someone else.
Okay. And so someone just asked, let's see, Asia is asking, okay, the cost of the training. The cost of the training is $149 a month, but you can actually get a 50% discount for the first 100 students. It's only active for the next 3 days. But you can get 50% off by using the code WRITER1022, and I included the code and I just sent it out to everybody. And so I hope that this conversation has shown you that we know what we're talking about, that we do care about you, and that we're not still selling you snake oil. We really do care about your success. And so depending on how much you care about your success, I respond to that. So if you want to learn from me, I've dumped a lot of information in the class in terms of videos and all kinds of stuff, just tips and anything I can think of that would help someone to do what they want to do. And so I think that the class will be something that you won't regret. You can look us up online. Any classes that we put out in the Black Business School, the review ratings are incredibly high. People are very happy. And what we've tried to really do with the Black Business School and also with Your Black Education and stuff like that is to find low-cost alternatives to traditional education that allow people to get exactly what they need and what they want, and not just what the system provides to them. Know the system really well. We know the strengths and weaknesses, and so that's why we've created these platforms. I'm pretty much done speaking. I'm going to let everybody go. Dr. Seldin, do you want to get the last word?
I just want to say thank you. All of you, we're past the time that we had allocated. You all are still here. You're attentive. That speaks volumes about, where you are, your own investment and your own, success as a writer. So, there are lots of things you could have been doing this evening. In fact, you took time out of your schedule to be with us. I'm truly, truly grateful for that. And we don't underestimate the importance of the fact that you've taken time out to be with us. So I want to say thank you.
Well, thank you, Dr. Seldin. This is great. This is kind of the brainchild that we came up with a few weeks ago, and we just saw this need, and so I said, yeah, let's try this and let's see what happens. So this is actually the first time doing this, but we have a good stable platform where there's a good exchange of information. We can help you form the writing groups. We can help you. We can help you build your audience. If you build a blog, we can help you get traffic to the blog. Even if I have to send traffic myself, we can help you write in compelling ways. We help you monetize your writing. We help you publish your book from start to finish. I show you, everything about how to. And then also another thing that I cover in the class is how to build a three-dimensional brand. A lot of people that are good writers. Well, sometimes they forget there are a lot of ways you can communicate your message. And so I eventually learned to kind of have different styles, not just different styles of writing, but really different styles of communication. I started really thinking deeply, what does it mean to communicate an idea, right? You can write it, you can speak it, you can do 3D where you can watch me do this at the camera, right? And the type of communication you're trying to make, that changes the way you actually go about it. So, for example, if I write an article, and it goes super viral, let's say it's been read by 300,000 people, then I might follow up with a video. Or I might write a secondary article to go with that to kind of build off of that. And that kind of comes from the whole lead-in concept that's used in television. You have a show that's really popular, then that leads into the next show, right? If your show's on right after the Super Bowl, you're going to get a big audience because they're still watching TV after the Super Bowl. So there's just little things, also incorporating things like tweets and Facebook posts and things like that into your writing style. You get different speeds. So sometimes, for me, I'm a teacher also at heart. So if I'm writing and teaching, sometimes I might teach you with an article that's 10,000 words, Michael Eric Dyson-esque. And then sometimes I might teach you with a tweet. I might, literally throw out 140 characters. And so there's just all these crazy and interesting styles to it that I think can really make it a lot of fun. And then if you're good enough, if you get to that point where you can actually use it to pay your bills too, and I'm not talking about becoming a millionaire. You don't have to make Jamarlin Martin money, for it to work. You just have to make enough money to pay your rent and save for retirement and not be homeless. That was my goal. I just don't want to be homeless. And if you're at that point, then that's really where you find happiness. Because here's the thing too: when you build a career as a writer, you can live anywhere. You could be like Ava and live in Shanghai Ava,
Yeah.
well, not Shanghai. She thought maybe she's Shenzhen because she corrected me. I said Shanghai. I keep saying Shanghai because that's my favorite city on the planet. But I think she's in Shenzhen. And but she connects with people all over the world with her writing, and even though she's in China, so the sky's the limit. I'm going to go to Africa for 4 months and work from Africa, So I just encourage you to really think about all the possibilities. Know that the internet opens the world up to you, but it ain't gonna happen if you're scared. Like if you're trying to use a 1995 framework to get things done in 2015, you're going to miss out on all the great things that can happen in your career. So I want to support you in that. I encourage you to pursue that. Even if you don't take the class, I'm still here. I still love you. I want you to do well. If you do take the class, then, you'll talk to me more regularly. But I just want to wish everybody good luck. And I want to say thank you so much for coming to our online class. Thank you once again to Dr. Tyra Seldin. Check us out, theblackbusinessschool.com. The code once again is WRITER1022. That's the date of today. For 3 days, you get 50% off now and forever. After the time's up, we go back to the regular price, and the price will keep going up because we can only take so many students in the class. So until we meet again, everybody, please stay strong, be blessed, and I will see you guys soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.